Ever wonder using a constant list with a predefined name value? You should probably try using an enum instead. I'm Paul from Flutter. Today I'm going to talk about using an enum on your Flutter application. So we are going to talk about some few things using enums. Enums are very good in your application, using it on your application if they are used well. So what are we going to talk about on this tutorial? We are going to talk about what enums are. We are going to talk what are they used for. We are going to talk about the performance benefit for using an enum, and we are going to talk about how to use this enum and when to use it, where to use it. So those are the things we are going to talk about. Now, what's an enum? I would say an enum is a list of name constant values. So just like defining it here, I'm going to open my pad here and I'm going to show you how to use an enum here. So first we are going to use this kill two of our questions we have here. What are they used for and how to use it. So we are going to how to use it. We are going to use the keyword enum. I will enlarge this. So we are going to use the keyword enum and we are going to give it a name. So we are going to call this, let's call this gender, and we are going to use the curly bracket for this, and we are going to give it the constant name values. So we are going to give it all with starting from a low camel case. We are going to call this male, we are going to call this female. I'm going to drag this a little bit here. I'm going to call this female and I'm going to call this order. So you can see that this is an enum. This is how to actually create an enum, a list of gender. We have the male, we have the female, we have the order, and all of these are constants. So we can now use it on our main here. So let's try to see what if an enum is actually a list. So let's print gender. Let's try to print gender. So we'll print gender and we'll call the values. So it has this getter, I think, that actually prints out the values of this. So we are going to run this and see. You can see here the output of this: gender male, gender female, gender order. You can see this. So what are we going to really discuss here? It's mostly on our Flutter application, how to bring this, the power of enum, to our Flutter application. Now I'm going to talk about, before going to our code, I'm going to talk about the performance benefit for using an enum. So the performance benefit for using I don't really see any big performance benefit for using an enum, but I just want to talk about it. And since enum use the const, the const is basically it makes whatever variable you define constant, compile time constant. That means on compile time it won't be able to change, just like more like we have the final, though on compile time the final variables can change, but for the constants the final variables cannot be changed. So I don't think it's maybe add any performance benefit to your app or not, but it's all just fine using constants on your more constants, the const keyword, or just constants, just like this const on your app makes your app more maintainable, because many of the things cannot be changed. Like user can your developers or anybody cannot just come around and change stuff on your application without thinking otherwise, why changing this. And so this makes sense, like to keep your performance stable and stuff like that. So let's dive into how to use it on our Flutter application here, and when to use it and also where to use it. We are right here in the project now, and this is the project how we are using it, and we have the project on my GitHub account. Hello Povin, I'll share this link to you. You can actually follow me if you want. And this is the repo name Flutter tutorial showcase. So this is the project I have cloned to my machine here. So I'm going to start explaining everything, applying Enum to our Flutter app, and I'm going to really based on taking this thing to applying them on the widget, using an Enum on widgets. So I'm going to try using that, so you just stick around. Let's go forward with this. And here we have our main method here, our main function, and here in this function we have our run app. You know what the main does. It's the entry point for our Flutter application. It's where our Flutter application runs, and here whatever that application is, this is where that application is going to start running. So we have the run app here, and also this takes the my app here. It takes the my app as and that extends the stateless widgets. This runs my app, so the run app runs my app, and this returns a material app from the build method here. We are overriding the build method from the stateless widget here. So, and this my material app here as home page. So if we go into this home page, we are going to see that this home page is on the pages folder. So we, in our lib, we have where everything is going on. We have our pages folder, we have our app, we have our main. So this main is dedicated for just the main, the app is dedicated for the material app, and the pages is where all the pages could be. But on this particular tutorial, we are going to talk on this single page. So let's dive into doing something. So now we are going to talk about using an Enum on button. So yeah, how can we use an Enum on button? So let's imagine having this constant list, and we have it as button state. So we want our button to have different states. So you might have one button, a custom button for your entire Flutter app, and you want to give it a state. You want to give it a time of loading, a time of maybe disabling that button, a time of enabling the button, something like that. So we can use the enum here, which is a constant list, to define all those, to predefine all those things. So we can just have the initial. So our button is going to have initial state, and our button is going to have a loading state. If we need that, our button is going to also have a disabled state. So, and yeah, we can have an enable state here, but the enable state here is going to be the initial state we have here. It's going to be the initial state we have here. So we are going to use this button state to create a custom button for our application. You can see our application is blank here. It's because we're using the container here. So I'm going to change this immediately to a scaffold, and saving this to change to white, and we are going to create a button here so we can use it on our UI here. So we are going to first create a button. So let's create some few nice button here. So let's make this a stateless widget, and we call this my button. Yeah, this is a new class that extends the stateless widget, and it has a build method. That means this is going to build a widget, and here we can have a custom button, and here we have the inkwell. Now this inkwell is going to give us some specific features we need, like the on tap callback. So I'm going to add the on tap callback here, and we are going to use all of this for this particular button. So we are going to have a child, and the child, we are going to pass in some few things like the container. Let's pass the container and give it some few designs. Yeah, so we can just have a child, another child, and we have one more thing, the text. Let's have the text, and here we can, in the text here, we can have submit. Yeah, let's call it submit, and on this we can also have some few more things. So I'm going to give the height of this button, I'm going to give it 64. Yeah, I'm going to give it 64. Let's call this on our UI now, to whenever we make changes we can see that. And I can just call this right here, so we can always see. I will make sure this, I'll bring this up, so I hope you guys are seeing it correctly. And here, so in our scaffold here, we have the body. We can use the my button, can use the my button here, and yeah, we are going to pass some few things in this my button. So what do we need from a button? Yeah, we need that button to have like kind of a name. Yeah, we need to give that button a name, so someone can see that button and know what, if he clicks on it, it's going to do all this or that. So I'm going to call this title. So we are going to give a button a title, and this button title we are going to call it submit. So let's do it that way. So and here we are going to give another parameter here as on tap. On tap, we are going to use on tap, give it a callback function here, so we can call it out here and it does the work. And we are going to give this button a state, and this button state, the button state is going to come from the enum here, and we are going to get the initial state of the button state. So I'm going to add the name parameter here. You can click on this bulb here to add it, and you can do that for the name and the on tap. We can also do that for the state. So you can see that all of this has come up. You can just get all of this here, okay, and define all of it here as a final. Yeah, here, okay, save that, and let's add this to the button state and all. Okay, we can have the required here, okay, the required and the required. So we now have everything we need for our button. Now we can use the tiles tool. In the text we have here, we added the title, so we can now use this text. Now if we save this, we should see something, and I think this text is white. We should probably give our container a color so we can see how it is. So let's give a box decoration, and in the box decoration here, I'll just give it a color of colors blue. Let's use blue and save this, so you can see that our button is here. Let us do one more thing here. Let's take this button here, my button here, to center. Let's wrap this with a center widget. So let's save this. You can see the button is coming up nicely. So let's add one more thing. Let's add this in a center. Let's add this in a center and save. Okay, our button is coming up well. It's coming up well. So what do we do now? Let us do some few things. Why not, let's add this in a row, in a column, and see how this would be. So let's save this, and we give main axis alignment center. Here it's all coming up. So let's give this a width, and let's give this a width of 100. Yeah, we have our width as 100 now. Okay, we can just throw in a few color to our textile. So let's do this real quick because our time is running. I'll have colors here and colors dot white. Yeah, I appreciate the white color on this case. I'll just save that, and I'll just give a little border radius here, Yeah, before we really go into something, give this a 16, and you can see that our button is all coming together, and you can see it's currently not clickable now. Oh, we have not made any print statement. Let's just do something and see if this is actually working. So let's print something out. Let's print tapped. Okay, let's save that, and so you can see Flutter tapped. So this is all working. So let's do this. Now we want to define some state for our application, and we are going to use the state here. So yes, use let's define in our build. After our build here, we are going to define button is loading. Or let's just remove this button. We know that we are in the button class, so it's loading, and we are going to set we are going to check this. We are going to check the state here, and if the state is loading, I'm going to check if the button state is loading. The button state is loading. Button state, okay, is loading. So if this is loading, it's going to be true, and we are going to check if the button state is disabled. This should be state, and we're going to check this also. Button state is disabled and disabled, so we are going to check that as well. And yeah, so we are all getting things, and we're all getting things. Now we want to do one more thing. We want to make sure that if our button button is loading, we should also disable it. So let's do that. So we'll do undergoing loading. So let's just call that way. We are going to do a list of either yeah, let's do this way. I'm going to give it a good name. Okay, it's if this is loading, and if this is loading and this button is also disabled. So if this contains what we have in the state is in this list, we should disable it. So we should disable the button. So let's use this instead, disable. So if the this states we have the loading and disable, if the state we pass in there contains any of these two, we should disable the button. So that's one way you can kill two birds with one stone. So we can just do one thing here. We can, if this is true, we'll set this to null, so we can see that. So let's pass in here on our, okay, so we have the button. Let's pass in disabled right here, and we in our callback here, let me print something. Okay, so we have our on top here. So let's use this here instead. So use our on top. We cannot leave that, set that aside, so our code will be cleaner. So we can just use our on top here. Let's see how that works. Let's see, let's print tapped. If we have set the state to disable, let's see if this is going to run. And I'm going to save that and click on tap. So you can see that it's not working. I'm tapping on the button, it's not working. So we have disabled the state of our button using an enum. So we can just use another value. Let's keep it at loading. You can see it, even though it's loading, we can't click this button. So let's if our button is loading, we really want to show a loading indicator. Yes, yeah, we really need to do that. So let's do that. And here, if our button is loading, we need to remove the text here and insert a new widget called the loading circular loading indicator. So I'm going to use a builder here. I love using the builder, so it's more using the if, so you can use the if more here. So if you check if is loading, if is loading is true, if is loading is true, we can just do something here. We can just return a circular progress indicator, and let's save this and see. So this is blue, you can't see it. So we are going to wrap this. Yeah, we are going to let's make a name here. Let's give this a color. So I'm going to give it a value color. I'm going to use always it's always stop animation. We are going to give it a color of white. So here you can see I need to make this more smaller in the center, so we can just use the transform widget here dot scale. So this is a nice widget to scale whatever widget, so you can just scale. I'll just scale this to 5. Let's see how this looks. Oh, it's bigger, and I can just make this 2 and see how it goes. 0, 9, it's going down. 8, it's going down. 6. Okay, this is awesome. This is okay. So you can see that everything is actually coming up. So you can see that everything is coming up. A non-name non started. Okay, we should use, yeah, we were actually using a capital letter at the stop and the start of this. So you can see that this is all working. It's all working correctly as we want it. So let's do one thing. If we set this to disabled, let's disable the button, just disable it. Yeah, let's check this. Say disabled. Here you can see that we still have it, like it's been disabled, but users can notice that this button is disabled or not. So we are going to do one thing here. We are going to check, we are going to call this one overall disabled. So let's call it that way. And we have the final is disabled, and we can just check the state here and use the button state is disabled. And here, so if this is disabled, we want to change the color. And also we want to change, this should be or. We set this, if this is we should set it to no. And yeah, we need to change the color on this. So if this is disabled, we should change this to a gray color. Okay, a gray color would do, and you can see it's all gray. So you can see that the button is disabled if you are actually a user seeing this. And if you should change this to a initial, you can see the initial, and if you tap on this, you get the print. If you change this to loading, and you can actually see the loading. Okay, this is awesome. So let's change this to a stateful widget and see if we can actually make this do some few things. So we'll have a function here. We have changed this to a stateful widget here, and we can just do some few things here. We can just say call a private method here, call API. So this is just a fake method to call an API. On this, we are going to await some things here. Yeah, this is going to be an asynchronous method, and we are going to add some few fields here. We are going to add some few variables here. We are going to call this button state, and we are going to call this button states. So we're going to also call this button states. So initially we are going to set this to initial, and I'll show you how to use the setter. So we are using the setter here. Let's call change. When you call this setter, you actually change the button state. So we change button states. So this will take a value of button state, and this will be a value, and we're going to call the set state, and the set state is going to change, is going to rebuild the widgets to whatever value we have here. So yeah, so on our fake API call, we are going to call this change button state, and on our button state widget here, we are going to pass this button state. So you can see how all of this is attaching itself, and we are going to do a fake API call here, and this we are going to use future.delay, and we are going to add duration of just 3 seconds. So we're going to add 3 seconds to our delay, and we are going to await to that. And this, what this does, when it gets to this point, the line 40 here, it's await for 3 seconds before the next line of code is being run. So we are going to call the next line of code and set this to we are going to call the setter here, change button state. We are going to set this to a button state called disabled. So initially we are going to set this to loading. So we are going to set this to loading, and now we are going to call this on our on tap here. So we can just immediately just pass this in on our on tap, and because it's a function, it's a method, and let's rerun this and see how it goes. So I'll just click on this, you see, and for 3 seconds it's been disabled. Let's run that again. You can see how this is all working. Click on it for exactly 3 seconds, it goes to. So this can be really good for your development, because as you're defining things here like the button states, you get to understand you get to know this, like you get to, this is really readable, like human readable, button state has initial loading. This can be really good for your application, rather than using is loading for your button or is loading sent it through. You can add more things to your button, maybe to your button state here. You can add more and do more here in the button, in the custom button class. So I think this can be useful for you, and if you need more tutorial on this enums, I can bring more. I hope you enjoy this and make use of this on your future projects. Thank you for listening to this point. Yeah, God bless you. Take care. Peace.